Hi there, and good morning. So, how are you feeling today? Are you feeling fine? Are you good? I hope you're good. And yeah, so yesterday I was talking about how ego functions in your daily life, and how in the previous videos, in the last few videos that I've shared, I talked a lot about ego and how ego destroys lives and how it destroys relationships. And because of how invisible ego is in our daily lives, it's easy for us to be working along with it instead of against it. So if we're working along with it, that means that we lead our life based on egoic decisions. And when we do egoic decisions, that means like we want to be right all the time. We want someone to feel sorry for even for the petty reasons, even though that sorry doesn't really isn't really needed and necessary in the conversation, but because you demand that sorry from that person, that's ego trying to tell you, to say to you, like, you demand that sorry, you want that person to say sorry to you because that will make you feel good, although the sorry doesn't really mean anything in the conversation because that person didn't actually do anything bad. And just because your ego caught the change of tones, maybe your ego caught the imperfections of the other person, and because of the imperfections, it's showing you in a way where you feel angry at the person. And after examining myself after years of shadow work, I realized that whatever you see from other person that angers you are the same traits, are the same actions that you don't want to do yourself, but you're doing it. And there are times when you just realize, like, wait a minute, what's going on? Because I have that because I have a Sagittarius sun, and like all fire signs, we are impulsive. We do things first before we think, and it depends on how your placements are. I don't want to delve deep into astrology, but yeah, I use astrology to know myself as a tool. I use astrology as a tool to figure out how I navigate, really. And based on all the planets and houses where it sits, I have this clear understanding of how my ego is trying to save me from things and experiences which it thinks this is safe when it's not. My ego tells me that I shouldn't be talking to you. I shouldn't be talking to the people, to my husband, to my family, just because I don't want to be hurt, for example. Or I refuse to welcome differences from other people because my ego says you don't want to hear that. But what is really actually, what is actually going on is you are trying to save yourself from it's not about the differences of ideas. This is about you not being able to accept that there are different people. You are unique. The other person is unique on his or her own. But because you cannot accept that there are differences, you want everyone to work with you along your rules, within your rules, bound by your rules, because that makes you feel good at the at the cost of the mental health of the other person, for example. At the cost of the mental health of the other person, that's what you're doing. And then now that the person is reacting based on how you do things, you're seeing the consequences of what you're doing in the past, and now you're living with that person, living in the present, wearing all these pains that you've caused to that person. And now it's time for either you taking the action based on your ego, or now it's time for you to think about what choices, or based on what your heart and soul could have done if you didn't allow the ego to be in the way. Instead of telling your heart, no, you can't do that because this is not appropriate, you let your mind, the mind lies. The mind wears and bears all your conscious ideas, conscious, that's what you know. But you also have your subconscious and unconscious playing out. But what other people see is your unconscious. When you sleep, going to sleep, when you're about to wake up, that's your subconscious. Whatever thoughts you have, the moment you wake up, that's your subconscious. If you're whatever, like in the day, whatever you're doing, the other person will see the unconscious, because you're not conscious doing it, you're just doing it. But the other person will see it clearly, what you're doing, good or bad. So now your job, your task now is, if let's say you don't like the environment you're in, you don't like the situation you're in, you don't like the person you're with, then it's time to ask yourself, what have I done in the past? What have I, it's time to accept that it's not about it's not really like you resent yourself for doing those things. It's about accepting that part of you that wasn't able to realize the sleepy head wasn't awake yet, and you can't really blame the past you for doing this to you now. And how should I say, because of now you're living the consequences, it's time for you to think about, not really think in the same way as you did before. This is thinking where you have your heart and soul in place. So it's like your mind, your heart and soul is now on the table. And now it's time for you to balance all of that. What does your conscious brain do? What or decides or wants? What's your heart? What's your soul wants? And once you listen more to your heart and to your soul, you will see that everything will fall into place. Because your mind lies. Your mind will trick you. Especially if you're like me, who grew up in an unhealthy environment, it's really easy for me to just go with my mind and live in the illusion and in distorted views of life. But my heart and soul knows that this is not the life that I want to have. I don't want this to be my retirement story. But because my ego wants to save me from all this pains and all that in the journey, then it's easy for me to choose the safe. It's easy for me to point fingers at someone without realizing that the moment I point fingers at someone, 3-4 fingers are pointing back at me. And that's what not my ego is saying, because my ego just see the index finger pointing at someone because it feels great. Pointing at someone, blaming someone. It's easy for us to blame someone because it's easy to accept. It's easy for us to release accountability instead of accepting accountability of our actions. If you realize that you also caused the pain of the other person, then I think it's time for you to listen to your heart and to your soul. What actually happened? What did your mind do and decided that brought you here now to the situation that you don't like? Are there things that you have neglected along the way? Are there things that you have missed? Because your ego is so just laser focused on trying to save you from harm without really looking around and see life, without really looking at the person, the people around you, your family, your husband, your wife, your children, without looking at them like imperfect. Like just because they're not following your rules, you feel not okay. Instead of seeing them like these are lovely imperfect souls, you're seeing them like your enemies. You see your father, your mother as like some tyrants, instead of just accepting like they're your parents. Just love them as they are, but you don't have to take action and do something to fix them. And even if you're the person who ran away from home because you don't like your home, just 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 accepting that that's your family, that's where you grew up, and you don't need to do anything to fix that, just accepting it. And that's already the first step. That's really important step for you to move forward, and move forward in a way where you can let your heart, your inner child, your soul speak, where you feel like lighter, you feel brighter, you feel okay, you're fine. But it doesn't have to be like the ego has to be in the way all the time. You can put the ego on the side only when you have the ego needed. So to save yourself, like war or maybe some community distress, then it's time for some kind of ego to function. But right now, really? And it's not like ego is doing some harm on us. It's part of us. It's where it's this thing. It's like a, for me it's like a seed. It's like a jacket. A jacket that will prevent me from feeling the cold winter. But I don't have to wear a winter jacket in the middle of summer. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm trying to say? You don't have to wear winter jacket all year round because you just need jacket during cold months. Same with ego. You don't have to wear ego all the time. You need ego for specific moments of your life, but you don't have to have that ego all the time, even in your personal relationships. You don't have to prove yourself that you're right and they're wrong. You don't have to. You don't. It's not really necessary for like to have a black and white thinking while you're in an environment where love should prevail. For example, in a home, in a family where love should prevail, instead your ego is trying to lead the family together. And what does ego does? What does ego do in a family? Black and white, divide. Favorite child, not so favorite child, black sheep. You have all those things, all those dynamics coming out. You have your I hate my wife, I hate my husband, I hate my children, I don't like my life. Like every time I went to stores on the street back then, I always hear these housewives talking bullshit about their husbands, and how they dislike their husbands for doing this and that. But when they ask me, how about you? I don't have anything to say. I can't say shit about my husband. It's not that I don't like to say shit about my husband. It's just, I love him. I have respect for him. I don't need to, like, there are parts of him that I don't like, but it doesn't mean that I have to let my ego speak out and I don't like him. And really, no. I let my heart and my soul speak. I let my heart lead the way. And because my heart says you love this person, you don't want to do this to your beloved. You don't want to hurt your beloved. You don't want to hurt your family. You don't want to hurt your sister. You don't want to hurt your brother. You don't want to hurt your spouses, the loved ones you have. But because of this the thin line between your heart and ego comes. Just a little unawareness, and just, just it just requires you to be so exhausted for the ego to come out. Because, well, I know it's really so complicated, but the moment you can master around ego and not allowing ego to lead the way again, you will see the difference of how you survive the day. It's not about survival anymore, it's about living the day, living the best of yourself each day, giving your all to the persons you love each day. You will be focused on bringing community together each day. You will be focused on flourishing your garden each day, instead of in Bisaya we have term manumboy. Manumboy is like counting. You become an accountant of your relationships. You're making inventory of what you've done versus what your other behalf has done. Or same with your family. You make an accounting. You become an accountant of what you did and what you didn't do, or what she did and what she did, she didn't do, what you did. It's about divide. Okay, so the moment you realize this, how these things play out in your life, it's important for you to just like stop and just wait. Try to allow your mind to simmer. Excuse me. It's important for you to meditate, if possible, 15 minutes, 10 minutes before you even say something, before you even do something, before you even do and say something, or even unconsciously thinking about it. I know it's impossible, it's really impossible almost, because right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm still working on that. I'm not perfect. I'm still in the middle of the journey, although it's been 3 years for me doing non-stop journaling, shadow work, doing the shadow work. But still, I know that I will be spending the rest of my life doing shadow work, because there's a lot to repair, there's a lot to fix. But it's not my job to fix other person, it's my job to fix myself. Do you understand? So if that's clear to you, I hope that you will be able to realize how important it is to just to be aware of your ego and embrace your shadow. You don't have to fear your shadows and just keep whispering to your shadow and get back to it. So, because this is part of you. You're not just you're not the kind of person who's just possesses good qualities. You also have the bad qualities, and that makes who you are. The good and bad parts of you makes who you are, and because of that, it's important for you to balance both. That you can't let your ego decide. You can't let ego decide your life, because you see where ego leads you. So if this message resonates with you, I hope that you can do something about it. And if you're someone who does, I mean, like journaling, shadow work, or if you're a person who heals through fiction, let me know in the comment section below. And if you're in the middle of doing shadow work, let me know and share your journey with me if that's comfortable for you. I don't like to force people to do things for me. So usually, and because my ego, that's another thing. If my ego speaks, I will know that it's my ego speaking, because I demand whatever it is. No matter what the person feels, if the person is busy or what, I demand. And I demand a lot. And if I just let my heart decide, or if I just listen to my heart, it says, you can't demand. You can't demand. Imagine a person demanding you. How would you feel? But the ego doesn't want to ask that question. No. So anyway, so I think this video is getting long enough already. So that will be today, and I hope that everything is clear to you, and I hope that I shed some light on how you function in your daily life, and I hope that this time you will choose your heart. I hope that this time you will choose your inner child. I hope that this time you will choose your soul to speak. I love you very much from the bottom of my heart, and see you in the next one. Cheers!